My name is Claire Bennett. I am 33 years old. Back when I still trusted her, my mother had convinced everyone that my little sister Ella was born unable to speak. That lie hid her plan to erase me from the family trust. Now, in the lawyer's office in Tulsa, as she pushed the papers toward me, my little sister suddenly spoke for the first time in 6 years, warning me the coffee my mother gave me was spiked to make me too ill to fight. My heart pounded as the truth crashed down, but I vowed then and there to end her games once and for all. If you have ever sat across from the person who raised you and realized they saw you as an obstacle to remove, drop a comment below about what that moment felt like. Your stories remind me I am not alone. I set the coffee cup down so fast it nearly tipped over. The conference room at David Ramirez's office carried the faint scent of fresh printer ink and worn leather. My mother, Veronica Bennett, leaned back with that practiced smile she reserved for lawyers and neighbors, the one that always said everything was under control. My father, Thomas Bennett, sat beside her flipping through the folder as if this were just another Saturday errand. My little sister, Ella, 9 years old, perched on the edge of her chair with her eyes locked on mine. Claire. My little sister whispered, her voice small but steady, the first real words I had heard from her since she was 3 years old. Do not drink it. My mother put something in it so you would get sick right here and sign whatever she wants. The room fell silent. David Ramirez paused mid-sentence, pen hovering. My mother's smile did not flicker at first. She reached for the cup. Ella, honey, you know you do not talk like that. The doctor said, but my little sister kept going louder now. The doctor said what you told them to say. You made me promise never to speak because you said every word would hurt Claire. You said if I loved her, I would stay quiet forever so you could fix the trust without her interfering. My stomach dropped. 6 years of silence. 6 years of my mother dragging my little sister to specialists, collecting diagnoses, telling everyone it was neurological from birth. 6 years of me believing it, because why would I doubt her? I was the older daughter who moved back to Tulsa 3 years ago after my father's health scare, the one who helped with bills and showed up for every holiday. I worked as a payroll specialist at a mid-sized logistics company downtown. Numbers made sense. Family was supposed to as well. My father cleared his throat and gave a forced, awkward laugh, trying to wave the whole thing away. Come on now, Veronica. This is not the place for games. Ella's sweetheart, let us not make a scene in front of Mr. Ramirez. He shifted in his seat, eyes darting between us, but he did not shut it down completely. That small crack in his usual quiet agreement felt different. My mother shot him a look that could cut glass. Thomas, you are not helping. Ella is just confused. She has always been sensitive. Her voice dripped with honeyed concern for the lawyer, but her eyes on me were pure ice. Claire, you know how dramatic she gets when she is tired. Sign the papers so we can move on with the update. It is for the family. You work so hard at that little job of yours. Let me handle the big picture like I always have. The jab landed exactly where she intended. My little job. My reliability questioned in front of the lawyer. I felt my cheeks burn, but I kept my voice steady. What exactly is in the coffee, Mom? She laughed short and sharp. Nothing. It is just herbal. You looked stressed coming in here. Always so wound up about money. Sign, and we can all go home. My little sister slid off her chair and stood between us. It is the same thing she practiced in the kitchen last night. She told Gary it would make Claire sleepy and sick for 2 or 3 days, long enough to transfer everything without her arguing. Gary Ellis, my mother's partner of the last 2 years, was not even in the room, but the name hung there. David Ramirez set his pen down slowly. Mrs. Bennett, perhaps we should pause this meeting. This is highly irregular. My mother stood smoothing her blouse. This is ridiculous. Ella, stop it. You are upsetting everyone. She grabbed the coffee cup and dumped it in the trash with too much force. See, no big deal. Claire, we will reschedule when you are feeling more reasonable. We left the office in a tense group. In the parking lot, my father walked beside me, his hand hovering near my shoulder, but not touching. Claire, your mother is just trying to protect the family money. The trust your grandparents set up is complicated. Do not read too much into Ella's words. Kids say things. His voice was low, almost pleading, but there was a new edge to it. He did not follow her to the car right away. Instead, he lingered by mine. Just be careful, okay? Then he got in with her. Back at my mother's house in the quiet suburbs east of Tulsa, the real unraveling began. My little sister stuck close to me on the couch, her hand in mine. I always could talk, Claire, she said softly. My mother told me when I was 3 that if I ever spoke again, something terrible would happen to you. She said my voice was dangerous, that it would make the family fall apart and you would lose everything. She said you were the reason we had problems with money and that I had to be good and quiet to fix it. 6 years. 6 years of this brave little girl carrying a secret heavier than most adults could handle. She described overhearing my mother on the phone months ago, planning the trust transfer, practicing my signature on scrap paper, complaining that I was too unstable to manage my share. My mother had even started a file of fake notes about my supposed anxiety and work stress. I felt sick, but not from any coffee. This was identity suppression at its cruelest. My mother had erased my little sister's voice to control the narrative and keep me in my place as the reliable but voiceless daughter who never questioned her. The trust our grandparents left was $750,000 total, meant for both of us equally. My mother had already siphoned off $125,000 over the last 18 months in small transfers, always under the reporting limit, always with forged paperwork that looked close enough. My little sister led me to the home office while my mother was in the kitchen making calls. In a locked drawer, she knew the code for their anniversary date. Of course, we found the evidence, authorization forms with signatures that were almost mine, but not quite, printed emails to David Ramirez about emergency changes due to my mental health concerns, notes in my mother's handwriting detailing fake incidents of me being erratic around family gatherings. My hands shook as I photographed everything on my phone. This was not impulsive. This was years of small violations building to one big erasure. I called Rachel Hayes, my closest friend from college, who worked as a nurse at the local hospital. She answered on the first ring. Claire, what is wrong? You sound like you're about to pass out. I told her everything. The lawyer's office, my little sister speaking the coffee, the documents. Rachel did not hesitate. I am coming over right now. Do not drink or eat anything she gives you. I will bring gloves and a sample kit. We test this tonight through my contact in the lab. While we waited, my mother came back into the room, phone still in hand. Claire, this little tantrum of yours is embarrassing. Gary and I are supposed to leave for our 4-day trip tomorrow. Sign the updated papers and stop making Ella lie for attention. Her words were laced with cold sarcasm. You have always been the dramatic one, always needing to be the center of everything. Some of us have real responsibilities. The cut went deep. My little sister squeezed my hand harder. She is lying, Claire. She told Gary last night that once you are out of the way for a few days, the transfer goes through and no one will believe you anyway. My mother laughed, but it sounded forced. Ella, enough with the stories. You are upsetting your sister. That was when my father walked in from the garage. He heard the tail end and stopped cold. For a second, his face showed pure shock. Then he interrupted her. Veronica, maybe we should listen to what the girls are saying. This does not feel right. It was not full support, but it was not the usual silent nod either. My mother shot him a look that promised a private fight later. Rachel arrived 40 minutes later, still in her scrubs. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug before kneeling in front of my little sister. You are incredibly brave, kiddo. Braver than most adults I know. Then she got to work, gloved hands carefully sampling the remaining coffee from the thermos my mother had packed for the meeting. While Rachel worked, Jennifer Hale, my coworker from the logistics company, texted me out of the blue. She had noticed I left work early for the family appointment and was worried. I filled her in briefly. She offered to pull any work emails or logs if my mother ever tried to paint me as unreliable at my job. The mini cliffhanger came when Rachel's phone buzzed with the preliminary lab results. She read it, face tightening. Claire, there is a heavy sedative and laxative mix in here, enough to knock you out and keep you sick for 2 or 3 days. Exactly what Ella described. My mother was still in the kitchen, pretending none of this was happening, but I could hear her on the phone with Gary, voice low and urgent. The clock was ticking. We had to pretend everything was normal, long enough for the authorities to get involved. But the betrayal was already burning through me like fire. Rachel held up her phone so I could see the screen, her face grim as the preliminary lab results confirmed everything. The numbers stared back at me. My little sister pressed closer against my side, her small hand still gripping mine like a lifeline after 6 years of enforced silence. We stayed frozen in the living room while my mother's voice drifted from the kitchen. I whispered to Rachel, "We cannot let her know we are on to her yet. If she gets spooked, she will just find another way to push the trust transfer through." Rachel nodded already, texting her hospital contact for a full chain of custody on the sample. My mother walked back in a moment later, phone tucked away, that same honeyed smile plastered on. She looked straight at me and started the attack again. "Claire, honestly, this little performance you are putting on with Ella is getting pathetic. You always have to make everything about you. Do not you, dragging your poor sister into your paranoia just because you cannot handle the idea of me actually managing the family money better than you ever could at that dead-end payroll job of yours." My little sister tensed beside me, but I squeezed her hand to keep her quiet for now. My mother kept going. "You have always been the one stirring up trouble. Some of us actually care about keeping this family stable instead of playing hero with spreadsheets." My father had followed her in from the garage. This time he did not just shift uncomfortably. His jaw clenched, and he cut in before I could respond. "Veronica, that is enough. The girls are telling us something serious here. You cannot just dismiss it like it is nothing." It was a clear interruption, a visible break from his usual pattern. Rachel cleared her throat and stepped forward. "Mrs. Bennett, with all due respect, I work in medicine. I had the coffee tested. There are substances in it that would have made Claire violently ill and barely conscious for days. That is not paranoia. That is evidence." My mother laughed, short and cutting. "Oh, please. You are her college buddy playing detective. Now, Claire, this is exactly why I worry about you. You surround yourself with people who feed your drama instead of facing reality. Sign the updated trust papers like a reasonable adult and stop turning your little sister against me. Ella knows better than to make up stories like this." She turned to my little sister, then voice, dropping into that manipulative tone. "Do not you, sweetheart. You remember what I told you about keeping the family safe." My little sister's voice came out small but steady. "I remember you telling me my words would destroy Claire if I ever spoke again. You made me promise so you could take the money without her knowing." The room felt heavier. My mother's eyes narrowed, but she recovered fast. "See? This is what happens when you fill her head with your resentment, Claire. You have always been jealous that I handle things better. You are the one who moved back here thinking you could play savior after your father's health issues, but you just made everything more complicated." My father pulled me aside into the hallway a few minutes later while Rachel distracted my mother. His voice was low. "Claire, I do not know what is going on here, but your mother has been different since Gary moved in, more secretive. I have seen her practicing signatures late at night. I thought it was nothing, but now." He rubbed his forehead. "Just do not drink or eat anything she offers until we sort this. I will keep an eye out." I nodded, throat tight. This was the slow build of repeated small violations I had lived with my whole life, now exploding into something I could not ignore. My mother had spent years suppressing who I was supposed to be and suppressing my little sister's voice to keep control of the $750,000 trust. Rachel and I slipped into the home office again. My little sister showed us the locked drawer again, and this time we found even more. Emails printed out between my mother and David Ramirez discussing my supposed instability after I had taken time off work last year for stress. Notes in my mother's handwriting detailing fake incidents of me being erratic around family gatherings. It was all there, a paper trail of identity suppression designed to make me look unfit. I called Michael Carter next. He was the assistant prosecutor friend I had known since high school. When I explained the lab results, the forged signatures, and my little sister's testimony, his voice went serious. Claire, this is fraud, forgery, and coercive control over a child. I am pulling in a detective right now. Detective Lauren Foster specializes in financial crimes and family exploitation cases. She will want to talk to all of you quietly. We can set up a controlled meeting at the lawyer's office in 3 days. Make your mother think the transfer is still happening, but you have to pretend the coffee affected you. Act sick. Keep her believing the plan is working. Detective Lauren Foster called me herself within the hour. We will need Ella's statement recorded properly with a child specialist present. Dr. Nicole Grant handles these trauma cases for minors. She will make sure it is done right so it holds up in court. In the meantime, document everything. The next 2 days became a performance I never wanted to give. I texted my mother updates from my bed voice messages, sounding weak and nauseous. Her replies were short, laced with fake concern that felt like another jab. Feel better soon, Claire. You always overreact to these things. Gary and I are still leaving for our 4-day trip tomorrow. Do not worry about the trust papers. I will handle it when you are thinking clearly again. My father texted me separately on the second day. She has been on the phone with Gary nonstop. Something feels off. I told her I am staying home instead of going with them. She did not like that. It was another small rebellion from him. My little sister stayed with me the whole time, talking more freely now that the dam had broken. She told me about the nights. She had overheard my mother and Gary planning about how my mother had said I was holding the family back, and that once I was out of the picture for a few days, the money would be safe. On the morning of the third day, just as we were finalizing the sting details with Michael Carter and Detective Lauren Foster, my mother showed up at my apartment unannounced. She had a fresh thermos in her hands and that sharp smile again. Claire, I brought you more tea to help with the sickness. You poor thing, always so fragile when things get stressful. Her eyes flicked to my little sister beside me, then back to me. Sign these updated forms now, and we can end this nonsense. You know I only want what is best for the family. Stop making me the villain when you are the one causing all the drama. I felt the trap closing in. Rachel was hidden in the next room, phone recording. Michael Carter had advised me to keep stalling. But my mother leaned in closer, voice dropping to that venomous whisper. You have always been the problem child, Claire, always questioning me. Sign it, or I will make sure everyone knows how unstable you really are, including that little job of yours. My heart hammered. This was the moment the coercion turned irreversible. Detective Lauren Foster's team was waiting for my signal, but one wrong word, and my mother could bolt with whatever she had already taken. My little sister looked up at me, eyes wide, with the same fear she had carried silently for 6 years. Then my phone buzzed on the table with an incoming call from an unknown number. My mother's eyes narrowed at the screen, and before I could reach for it, she snatched it up. Claire, do not you dare answer that. This is family business, not another one of your little drama calls from work or whoever you have dragged into this mess. You have always been so quick to run to outsiders instead of trusting me like a real daughter should. She tossed the phone back down the unknown number, still ringing, and leaned in closer. Sign the papers right now, or I swear I will make sure everyone knows exactly how unstable you have become. That payroll job of yours, I will have them questioning every decision you make. You think you can play the victim here. You are the one who has been holding this family back for years, always questioning me, always making me look like the bad guy, when all I have ever done is protect what is ours. My little sister's body went rigid beside me, but she did not stay silent. Mom, stop. You are the one who put the stuff in the coffee. I heard you tell Gary last night it would keep Claire out of the way long enough for the transfer. You said she did not deserve her share because she has never been grateful enough. My mother's head snapped toward my little sister, the honeyed mask cracking completely. You ungrateful little girl. After everything I sacrificed to keep you quiet and safe, this is how you repay me. Talking back like some stranger's child, she turned back to me, voice dripping pure contempt. See what you have done, Claire. You have poisoned her against me, just like you have always tried to do with everyone. Sign it, or I walk out of here and finish this without you. The trust was never meant to be split with someone who cannot even keep her own life together. That was the moment the breaking point hit. I stood up slowly, heart hammering, but voice steady for the first time in years. No, Mom, I am not signing anything, and neither is Ella. We are done letting you erase us. Rachel stepped out from the next room phone, still recording every word. Mrs. Bennet, I think it is time you leave. The police are already on their way, based on what we have documented. My mother's face twisted with rage, but before she could launch another jab, the front door opened and Detective Lauren Foster walked in with two uniformed officers right behind her. Dr. Nicole Grant followed the child trauma specialist Michael Carter had arranged, carrying a tablet ready to record my little sister's official statement. My mother tried one last time voice, rising in that familiar sarcastic hiss. This is absurd. Claire, you're making a huge mistake. You will regret turning your back on family like this. I only wanted what was best, and you have always been too selfish to see it. But Detective Lauren Foster cut her off cleanly. Mrs. Bennet, we have lab results, forged documents, and a minor's testimony. You are coming with us for questioning on fraud, forgery, and child psychological abuse. My father had been standing in the doorway the whole time watching. This time his reaction was different again. No awkward laugh, no quiet deflection. He stepped forward and looked my mother straight in the eye. Veronica, I can't do this anymore. I heard you on the phone with Gary yesterday. I saw the papers. I am not covering for you this time. He did not yell. He just turned to me with quiet resolve. Claire, I am sorry I did not see it sooner. Take care of Ella. I will cooperate with whatever the detective needs. The arrest happened fast after that. My mother was let out still protesting, still trying to spin one final story about how I was the unstable one. Gary Ellis was picked up at their house an hour later when officers found more evidence in his car. The sting at David Ramirez's office the next morning sealed it. My little sister gave her full recorded statement to Dr. Nicole Grant in a quiet room at the station, her voice clear and steady after 6 years of silence. Jennifer Hale, my coworker, came forward too, with work emails showing my mother had called my boss, pretending to be concerned about my mental health episodes, trying to undermine me there as well. The legal process moved quicker than I expected. Michael Carter pushed the case hard. My mother took a plea deal to avoid a full trial. 3 years in prison for the fraud and abuse charges, plus restitution. But not everything could be fixed. Of the $750,000 trust, $125,000 was gone for good, funneled through accounts we could not trace completely. The court froze the rest and made me sole trustee, but the damage was done. My father cooperated fully in the investigation, yet he chose to move to a small apartment across town rather than fight for any kind of reconciliation. He said he needed time to process what my mother had become, but the distance felt permanent, like another quiet loss I had to carry. My little sister came home with me that same week. The family court judge granted me emergency custody after reviewing everything, including Dr. Nicole Grant's report on the 6 years of coercive silence. My little sister picked out her own room in my apartment, painting the walls a soft lavender and filling the shelves with every book she had never been able to talk about before. She started therapy twice a week, working through the fear that still crept in some nights when she woke up remembering the threats. There were hard days when she went quiet again, the old habit returning like a shadow. But there were more days when she chattered nonstop about school, about dinosaurs, about the dog we were thinking of adopting. I kept my job at the logistics company, but the rumors my mother had planted took months to fade. Jennifer Hale stood up for me in meetings, vouching for my reliability, yet the whole experience left a scar. I sold the family house in the suburbs because every room carried too many memories of silenced voices and forged signatures. We moved to a quieter neighborhood on the west side of Tulsa, closer to Rachel and farther from the old life. The money that remained went into an education fund for my little sister and a small savings account for us walkaway money, as my grandparents would have called it. It was partial victory, the kind that leaves you standing, but changed forever. I had my little sister's voice back and the truth out in the open, but I lost the mother I thought I knew, the father who finally chose a side too late, and the illusion that family bonds could survive any betrayal. Some nights, I still sat on the balcony with my little sister while she told me stories that had been locked inside her for 6 years, and I felt the weight of what we had both given up to get here. Choosing myself, choosing us, meant walking away from the version of family my mother had controlled for so long. It hurt in ways I could not explain to anyone who had not lived it, but it also felt like breathing clean air for the first time. My little sister looked up at me one evening over pancakes, her voice soft but sure. "Claire, thank you for listening. Even when I could not talk, you always did." I squeezed her hand and smiled through the ache in my chest. "Always, sweetheart. We are building something real now. Thank you for listening to my story. If my mother's need to control and silence us taught me anything, it is that protecting your peace sometimes means losing pieces of the past you thought you could not live without. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own truth? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and your stories remind me we are all figuring this out together.